Ready.
Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos y gracias por acompañarnos. Quisiéramos dejarles saber de que esta conferencia se va a ofrecer en español. Por favor, use su teléfono móvil para marcar el número 508-924-5155. Mediante ese número telefónico usted va a poder escuchar toda la presentación en español. De nuevo, 508-924-5155. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Wilbur, and good evening, PGCPS community. I'm Pamela Boozer-Strother, the board member for District 3, and I want to welcome everyone to this evening's parent forum on cyberbullying prevention. And before we begin, I must read this disclaimer on behalf of the Board of Education of Prince George's County. Members of the public participating on this telecommunications meeting are hereby advised and informed that their comments and communications presented during the meeting are deemed public, are recorded, and may be publicized and used for purposes connected with representation of the board member conducting the meeting. By voluntarily participating in this telecommunications town hall meeting, you're expressly agreeing and consenting to the usage of any and all comments and or statements provided to you to the Board of Education of the Prince George's County, sponsoring this event for these purposes. You are also informed that to the extent this teleconference meeting is sponsored and held by an individual member of the Board of Education of Prince George's County, statements made and or information provided are not intended or not meant and should not be deemed or used as opinions or actions made or taken on behalf of the Board of Education of Prince George's County. So thank you so much, and I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, David Smith.
Good evening and welcome to this evening's District 3 Parent Forum. I am David Smith, District Liaison for the Board of Education. I am also a parent and I will be your moderator for this evening. In addition, my colleague, Ms. Barton, Mia Barton, is available to assist and will monitor the chat this evening. Tonight, we encourage you to engage with us. If you have any questions or comments, please share them in the chat and we will try to answer those questions or comments when we get to that section of the forum. Tonight's forum is about you as we focus on parent support and bullying prevention and awareness since October is Bully Awareness Month. I would like to introduce the following board members who are sponsoring this forum this evening. District 3 board member Pamela Boozer-Strother, at-large board member Sandra Shepard, and at-large board member Curtis Valentine. Ms. Boozer-Strother, Ms. Shephard, and Mr. Valentine are also parents, so they understand and can relate to some of the concerns that other parents might be dealing with here. This evening, we have two excellent presenters for you that will share information and resource. Ms. Desann Manzano-Lee is our bullying liaison for Prince George's County Public Schools. Also, she is the instructional director with the Department of Student Services. Mr. Centillo is with our IT department for Prince George's County Public Schools. Now I would like to turn things over to our board members for a few remarks, starting with Ms. Boozer-Strother, then Ms. Shephard, and then Mr. Valentine.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate everyone attending this evening. You know, I want to give a shout out to the University Park Elementary PTA that had a conversation about cyberbullying on Facebook, and I thought, wow, you know, it's you know, Bullying Prevention Month. This seems like a great opportunity for parents to learn along with our children. Our you know, our students have a week of activities to learn about bullying prevention and kindness, and you know, it's you know, as parents, we should be able to have these conversations with our children as well. And I think our children spending so much time on screens and online through this pandemic has increased the fact that we need to dig deeper and be part of their experiences online. As a parent of a fifth grader, we've moved into the world of online gaming, sort of the talk that's happening, and it's been a change, and it's been conversations that we've had to have, and we want to make sure that our son is aware of, some of the what's behaviors that we're going to learn about in this forum, and what could be bullying. And I think as parents, we really need to understand that as well. I also, it's just, for me, it's been really painful for our children of these past 4 years, living at a time where we have a president who is the bully in chief. And I think it's, we're living through a time where there's adults are trying to normalize this. And I think all of us in Prince George's County Public Schools are quite aware of that and working hard to be an influence in the opposite direction towards kindness and acceptance and understanding. So I just want to thank everyone for coming together this evening to have this conversation. And definitely thank you to our presenters, Desann and Santil. And we have a lot to learn from both of you. And thank you to my colleagues on the Board of Education, Sandra Shepard and Curtis Valentine. And with that, I'd like to introduce Sandra to make a few remarks.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for creating this setting for us to learn and to get skills of how we can address if there's any bullying happening, or how do we can prevent. I'm a parent that has a kindergarten, believe it or not. At that age, children start very young displaying behaviors that could potentially lead to bullying. And I believe that we as parents, people in the community, we need to take the child holistically. And our job to prevent these situations from happening is not only on the side of the parent, it's on the side of the big brother and sister, it's on the side of our teachers, it's on the side of the neighbor. So we all need to have our hands on and take care of our children, right? And yes, there's a lot of things happening right now with our young people. Everything is done to social media. It is a whole world that can potentially put so many of our young people at risk of mental health issues because of cyberbullying. And the list goes on. But I do, I think that as parents, as people in the community, our job is to make sure that we teach our children to have, to be kind to each other, to accept other individuals, regardless of how they look, or their culture, their accents, and understanding that if a young person might come off strong, there might be something going on at home or over your neighbor. This is not just for our students. I think that this is for everybody. We just don't know what is going on with individuals, especially right now with how the political climate, COVID-19 and all the other things that we are dealing with in our nation and our county and the whole world. So definitely agree with the statement of how do we continue to have kindness, acceptance, and understanding in our community and our school system. And thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this.
Good evening. Again, my name is Curtis Valentine. It is a pleasure to be here, to be present with such amazing people, parents, educators, community members, to talk about a very, very important topic. As a school board member, our first priority is to create a safe learning environment for our students. And the idea that students would feel uncomfortable coming to school or entering into a learning environment where they feel not seen, not treated equally, is one that we cannot stand. And so, like my colleagues on the school board, as a parent, I see this up close. I've seen this up close as a former educator in the school system. I saw it as an educator. But also I have my own personal experience as a child growing up being bullied. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to have conversations like this to come together to talk about how we as a community can address this issue, how this is important for everyone. We are a family. This is why I chose to move here. This is why I chose to raise my children here. This is why my wife and I chose to serve our school system the way we have. And so we must look inward and to support one another, to defend one another, to call out bullying when we see it, to understand the importance of creating a safe learning environment, but also the potential of what that learning environment could look like if we all felt comfortable in ourselves and we all had the opportunity to be the best version of ourselves on a daily basis. And so again, I salute my colleague Boozer-Strother for her leadership. I salute David Smith for all the work he's done, and all the staff who've come together from our school system who work every day to ensure that when there is bullying, that it is meted out and that it is ended, but that we have support for our teachers to create the most comfortable and empowering and motivating and reinforcing and ensuring and foundational learning environment possible. Because if we do that, the sky's the limit for our students. So again, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Boozer-Strother, Ms. Shepherd, and Mr. Valentine. Anybody else who has joined us since the beginning, staff, parents, administrators, you will have a chance to speak later. But if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the chat. Now I would like to introduce our presenters, Ms. Desann, Manzano-Lee, and Centil for this evening's presentation.
Thank you, David. Good evening, everyone. And again, I echo the sentiments of our board members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to discuss this very important topic. My name is Desann Manzano-Lee, and I bring you greetings from the Department of Student Services. Before we jump into our conversation this evening, I'd like to make sure that we all start from a common understanding about what bullying is and what cyberbullying is also. And so, bullying refers to conduct that is different from a single incident of teasing. It's an abuse of power. It involves repeated, intentional, unwanted, and aggressive behavior that involves either a real or perceived imbalance of power. It can occur face-to-face or behind someone's back. The effects and the impacts can be short-term or they can be long-term. Mr. Valentine briefly shared earlier that he had personal experience with bullying. And it's important for us to understand that while all acts of bullying are aggressive, not all aggressive acts are bullying. And so that is very interesting, especially at the early elementary levels, where our students are still learning how to socialize with one another. And some behaviors may be inappropriate, but they are not all bullying behaviors. Now, as Ms. Boozer-Strother said, she is experiencing some things with her son in the gaming world. Our students are online more than ever. And so we have a fairly new phenomenon called cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is electronic bullying. It's online social cruelty. It's the use of using information and technology to bully others. And it can occur through email, through instant messaging, in a chat room, on a website, in a gaming situation, and through sending images through your cell phone. What makes cyberbullying particularly interesting and dangerous is that it is a 24-hour cycle. And so it is rarely an opportunity to turn it off. It is also extremely dangerous because the aggressor has the ability to hide their identity a lot of times. And so it's important, and we'll discuss this later on in the presentation, that our students and our parents are aware of the dangers associated with cyberbullying. I'd like to now introduce my colleague, Centil, who's going to share a little bit of information about what PGCPS is doing to keep our students safe now that we're in this virtual arena.
Good evening. My name is Centil. I represent the Information Technology Division my team's responsible for the infrastructure, operations, and security of all the network activity happening within the district. So I'm first a parent, then a technologist, and a cybersecurity professional. So I mentioned being a parent first, so I get to test my strategies on my own kids first and sharpen my skills. At PGCPS, the emphasis is on responsible and appropriate use of technology. So with that in mind, we have put together layers of defense, if you would, that would keep the children in the district safe from external perpetrators, and also prevent them from accessing content that's inappropriate for their instructional needs and age and so forth. So children being children think they're entirely anonymous when they are doing something on social media and things like that. Online anonymity is overrated. There are usually a lot of traces that we can pick up on, but there are some limitations, but I will come down to that in a moment. In the district, I mentioned several layers of technology that we deploy concurrently. So one of the first and foremost things is a web filter. We use a product called Content Keeper. The company basically curates tens of thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of sites almost on a weekly basis, and classify them as one of hundreds of different categories in the product. So we allow students access to certain categories that would help them with the instructional needs in the classroom or in a distance learning environment. The staff and teachers will have a different set of access to different various sets of websites. So that's one tool that we use. If you have a device that was issued by PGCPS, a Chromebook for instance, it comes preloaded with this filter. So any activity, any online activity that your student does from the home has the same access levels as though they will be accessing internet when they are at a school building. So the same policies apply whether they are in the building or whether they are accessing from the home. So in addition, we are in the process of implementing a classroom management software. So we've just finalized the initial setup. So over the next several weeks, it'll be rolled over. And all the teachers, classroom teachers, will have access to this tool. So what it lets them do is during the instructional time, they can make sure the students are focused on the content that the teacher is trying to teach on. If the students get distracted by a website or a game or anything of that nature, even if it is allowed by our content filters, the teacher will be able to close it out or restrict and redirect their attention to the content being delivered. So this is an exciting development that's coming up very soon. As well, there was a question about chat. How do you monitor chat? So what happens in the world of chat, a lot of that happens across a secure SSL connectivity. So as part of our infrastructure, we have the ability to decrypt the traffic, anything that's being sent over the network, if you would, and use some algorithms to analyze the kind of words, keywords, and language that's being transmitted back and forth. So this is a very tricky part, because a word in isolation could sound terrifying, in fact, but a combination of such words could be a perfect candidate for an instructional setting. So we can't just pick on a few words and pursue that as a potential cyberbullying or a self-harm situation or a physical threat. So we use a lot of different algorithms to zero in on those words and conversations that are potentially problematic, and then basically quarantine them, analyze them, and if the conversation is truly problematic, it is escalated to the school administrator, the principal, and the school principal follows the student handbook in dealing with those situations. So the same goes with emails, Google Chats, and Hangouts. A lot of these tools are actually blocked when within a PGCPS network. But some of them are, Twitter, for instance, is open because the platform could also be misused occasionally. We are decrypting the traffic and monitoring what kind of transactions or correspondence happen through the medium. So we react sometimes depending on the messaging flow. So I also mentioned some limitations. Assuming the student is using a PGCPS device, we are able to monitor the activities and prevent them from getting to inappropriate sites. But a lot of our families use a personal device, especially if it is a Windows or a Mac machine. There is really no way for us to monitor activities that are happening on those devices. But if it is a personal Chromebook, for example, and if the student logs into a PGCPS email account and accesses the content, then we are able to apply our filters and keep the learning environment safe. As well, one thing to note is a lot of students these days have smartphones, and what happens on the cellular network pretty much stays on the cellular network. Sometimes the thinking is, okay, the student is using it for instructional purposes, so you have to have a way to monitor and prevent those activities. Unfortunately, the cellular, when you are on a smartphone in a cellular network, the packets, the data packets are carried through cellular carriers, and we don't have visibility into the underlying data access information. So typically, if there are complaints about students on cellular phone, then we work with law enforcement and trying to support them through the investigation process. But these are some of the things that we currently have in place. I would be happy to elaborate on any particular thing that you want, or if you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. So you may be asking yourself, well, what can we do? What can we do to end bullying? What can we do to stop bullying? And so the answer is simply prevention. And with prevention, it means that everyone has got to be involved. Everyone from the administrator to the teacher, to the cafeteria staff, to our bus drivers, to our assistants, to our substitutes, parents and guardians, students, community members. Every single one of us needs to get involved in ensuring that we are implementing strategies that will prevent and end bullying and cyberbullying. Just a few of the strategies that Prince George's County Public Schools has been implementing to prevent bullying and create climates that are supportive for all of our students. And so, as you are aware, October is National Bullying Prevention Month. And so while we have many forums such as these in October, we address bullying, and our focus on creating a safe and supportive environment continues every single month of the year. And so our theme this year is Together Against Bullying, United for Kindness, Acceptance, and Inclusion. And that is so important that every single one of our students feels accepted, that our students demonstrate kindness, and that our students are included in every aspect of school life. And so we're so pleased that this year our students have been flooding us with a number of videos. Elementary, middle, and high school students have been submitting their videos about how they demonstrate this year's theme. And so we're in the process of compiling those videos into one long PGCPS video, and it's going to be accessible to everyone via our social media platforms later on this month. Another strategy implemented in PGCPS is the development of school-wide bullying prevention plans. And so every year, all of our schools look at their climate data. They meet with various stakeholders that may include teachers, parents, and students as appropriate, and they develop and implement a school-wide prevention plan based on the needs of their schools. And so those plans are due to the Department of Student Services every year by October 31st, and they're living documents that our schools refer to as they go throughout the year to check the temperature of the climate in their buildings. Unity Day is tomorrow across the country. And Unity Day, we're inviting and encouraging all PGCPS community members to wear orange in a sign of solidarity and a sign that bullying will not be tolerated in Prince George's County Public Schools. We also have developed a number of resources for our professional school counselors and for anyone really to use with our students during our virtual platform. And so this information is accessible to our staff internally so that they can use with students. We've also updated our PGCPS anti-bullying website, and we'll place that address for you in the chat later on. And then finally, we are so excited about the launch and the implementation of our online reporting form for bullying. Traditionally, we've been using a hard copy, a paper copy, but this year we've implemented across all of our schools an online reporting system, and I'm gonna share with you how to access that and how to use that online reporting tool later on this evening. So we are doing a number of things to prevent bullying, and we're excited that you're with us today and you're collaborating with us, because indeed it is certainly a partnership. All right, so I'm a parent. We have 3 kids. The oldest is 21. We've got a 17-year-old and we have a 13-year-old. And every time we think we have found a way to master social media, the internet, gaming, it slaps us in the face and says, we are smarter than you. And so I see some people smiling and nodding their heads. This has become a full-time job, especially with our students online more than ever. Our students are online as a way of socialization more than ever, because we are all endeavoring to be safe at home. And so as parents, we are working, many of us from home, some of us are working out of the home, and we are juggling homeschooling from home, and we are juggling monitoring what our children have access to. And so I'm just gonna share with you a few tips, and if there are questions that you have, just place them in the chat and so it's important for us as parents and guardians to set reasonable limits for our students. Help your children make responsible decisions by using the technology that's available to them. I also want to encourage you to not be afraid of the technology. Now, I have not stepped into the TikTok world. I see all of those fun-looking videos. I haven't been that brave, but I'm challenging myself, and I want to challenge you to get involved with what your students have access to. If your students play games, ask them to show you how to play those games so that you are aware of who they're gaming with, who they're talking with, the videos that they are posting, and you have access to all of that information. I do play this trick with our youngest child. I pretend that I know less than I really do, and she gets a kick out of saying, "Oh, mommy," and showing me that, but that is really my strategy for getting into her world and having access to what she is doing, as much access as I possibly can. Another tip that I'd like to share with you is to monitor and implement content blockers as much as possible. And so a lot of the social media platforms have parental controls and content blockers to protect our children. So I'm going to encourage you to use those tools for keeping your children safe. Those are really, really important strategies. It's also important that you set parameters. It's important that during school time, your children know that that's school time. It's not gaming time. It's not cell phone time. It's not social media posting time. And so that there's a time for us to play games. There's a time for us to engage with our friends socially. But during school hours, we need to be attentive to the instruction that's going on. And it's challenging because we can all become easily distracted. But if you speak with your child or your children up front and establish that routine, that's also a key into helping them become really, really successful. It's important also that you try to have more family time. Maybe at dinner time, you can say, this is our no cell phone time, if you're able to eat dinner together, and that you're able to engage in conversations with your child or with your children so you understand what's happening with them. There is such a thing as technology overload, and so that's important for us to all take a break during the day from Zoom, from social media, from our cell phones, and just engage face-to-face with the people in your home. David, are there any questions in the chat that I should pause and address right now?
I don't think I see any at the moment, so you could continue. I don't.
Well, I'm sorry, David. Miss
Oh, you
Rosa,
have-
she raised her hand and I asked her if she had a question, but she didn't say anything. So I'm not sure.
Is Miss Rosa there now? Does she have a question?
She's not responding.
Okay, we'll come back to Miss Rosa if she has a question.
Okay, Ms. Rosa, if you feel like entering that information in the chat at any time, feel free and we will do that. We'll be able to address that for you. Additionally, if your children are gamers, you want to emphasize to them that they should not share personal information. They should never let strangers know where they are, who's at home with them, who's not at home with them. That is extremely, extremely important in keeping our children safe. We also want to watch for signs of if we feel our children are being bullied or if they are engaging in bullying behaviors. So if your child starts to have a change in an attitude or behavior or becomes withdrawn, even if we're in school virtually and they are attempting to avoid school, those may be signs that you might want to watch out for. So in my household, I am not always the calmest of parents. And so I work really, really hard to not get emotional or excited when my children share something with me or if they're upset, because I want to fix everything because I'm the mom and that's my job. And so I try to remain really, really calm so that they can understand that they can share things with me, that it's not their fault if they are being targeted or if they are being bullied, and that working together we'll be able to find some solutions to those problems. So it really, really is important to maintain those lines of communication with our children. Oftentimes, boys in particular do not like to report bullying. They view it as tattling. And so it's really important that we encourage our boys to speak about their feelings. So I saw a question pop up.
Yes. Can we stress the importance of not being a bystander when someone else is being bullied?
Great point. So it's important that we stand up for others, but it's important that we know how to stand up for others safely. And so if you do not feel comfortable intervening in that moment, there's always an adult that we should encourage students to go to seek help. And so we know that the impact of bullying is not only felt by the victim, but it is also felt by bystanders who may become afraid or fearful to speak up and say something because they do not want to be next. Great point. Any other questions?
Not so far, no.
So I see one that just popped up.
There's one in the chat that just popped up. What is the process of evaluating an issue if the classroom teacher or school principal is not responding to a reported case?
Okay, so that is a great segue into our new online platform. So I'm going to share my screen and then we'll discuss that, okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen. Great. So we're really excited that we've moved from the traditional paper copy to this online format. And so this is our new PGCPS online reporting form, and it is available in English, Spanish, and French. The front page of the form gives us the definition for bullying, cyberbullying, harassment, intimidation. It helps us to be clear on who a victim is, a witness, the offender, and it also defines the term of psychological injury. So as we scroll down to the bottom, I'm going to move my box. We see a tab at the bottom that's at the right-hand corner that says complete form. So if you are making the report, you would select complete form. You'll notice that today's date is already there. So that's automatically done for you. There's a drop-down menu and you would select the school for which you're making the report to. That's a mandatory field. Additionally, the name of the reporter as well as the email of the reporter is a mandatory field because we want to be able to follow up with you to address the concern. We also ask you to identify yourself as a student, a parent or guardian, a staff member on behalf of the reporter. Next, we need to collect some information to do our investigation. So we ask you to identify the name of the student victim. And it's also important to keep in mind that this online reporting is for student to student reports of bullying. If there's another issue, we have other mechanisms to address that. So we ask you to identify the student name. If you don't know the last name, that's okay. As much information as you can provide would be helpful. Any witnesses who saw what happened would be helpful, and the name of the alleged offender. We ask you to identify the dates of the incident. And then number 5, there are several options for you to best describe what happened and why you think it happened. We also ask you to identify where the incident happened because that is also important in our investigation. And then we ask you to describe what the alleged offender did or said. Why you think it happened. Was it because of race, marital status, gender identity, religion? Was it because the person has a disability? Any information that you can provide is beneficial to us. Did a physical injury happen? Did the victim miss school as a result of this? And any other information that you'd like to provide. Finally, we ask you to type your name. If there is evidence, a screenshot or something that you'd like to share with us, you can use the add attachment feature and that will be uploaded with your report. Finally, you hit submit form and this form goes directly to the email box of the principal as well as to a student services email box that we monitor. So in accordance with our administrative procedures, school AP 5143, schools have 2 school days to begin the investigation. And I always like to stress the word begin. That does not mean complete because there may be a variety of factors that are involved as it relates to completing the investigation. And so once you submit the form, you, the reporter, get a confirmation saying that your report was successfully completed, and then the school is able to begin their process. We always let parents know that should you disagree with the results of the investigation, you can always contact the Department of Student Services to share your concern and make that appeal that way. And so this online tool is going to be very useful to us in providing appropriate supports to the offender, to the bystanders, and also to the victim, because it's important that we provide support to all three of those students.
Desann, can you tell our audience where they can find that, or if there's an app available so that they could download? Can you share that information as well?
Absolutely. And so if you have an iPhone or an Android device and you go into your Play Store, you would simply type in I Stop Bullying, and the icon will come up that says PGCPS Safe, Stop Bullying. And I see some of our participants are doing that now, so that's great. And it should open up for you. And you now have access to the app on your phone. You also have access to this online reporting form on your school's website. So the link has been loaded on every single PGCPS school's website and is available for access there, as well as using any device, a laptop or a desktop, typing in PGCPS Stop Bullying. And we'll place all of those links in the chat for parents.
Thank you so much, Desann. At this point, we will open for some discussion. If anybody on the Zoom has anything that they would like to ask or share.
Yeah, I would just ask if Desann can show a little more of a tour of the bullying prevention web pages for PGCPS.
Sure,
More
absolutely.
about the educational pieces we can find there.
Absolutely. Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Thank you. So this is the newly redesigned PGCPS anti-bullying website. And some of you may remember that last year we did a bullying cheer chant competition. So we have the winning videos posted there for you. We have a statement about our stance against bullying, harassment, and intimidation. We have some words of encouragement and some hashtags for students. Please be yourself, be kind, be unique, be a buddy. We also have the definition for bullying, as well as signs and resources for parents and students. And so these resources are linked there for you. We also have some information about cyberbullying and tips to responding to cyberbullying. And we have information for parents and we have information for students. We encourage students to not engage or support mean material, gossip, or rumors that are posted online. We encourage them to tell an adult at home, a trusted adult, or a trusted adult at school. We remind our students about the importance of leaving a positive digital footprint, and that we want them to know that whatever you post lives forever. Even if they can't see it, it is there. Somebody is able to find it. We remind them not to share their passwords, not even with their very best friend. We encourage them to share their passwords with their parents, and that should be the only person that they share their passwords with. We encourage students to keep their parents in the loop, to tell them what they're doing online, And students and parents, follow your children online and monitor the conversations that they are engaged in. We want you to know that no one is really invisible online. So that's back to creating a positive digital footprint. Social media, technology, they are wonderful, wonderful tools, but we have to use them responsibly. And if you see something that is offensive, please don't join in that type of behavior. And so those are some tips that are highlighted for parents as well as students. And then finally, again, how to access the report of the new online link.
So Desann, we had another question come through and it says, do colleges ask about bullying history at the time of application? Well, that isn't interesting because if you've had a history of bullying as a child or a youth, you know, you would want to make sure that you're not carrying that, you know, behavior, you know, so can you like address that or?
Sure, well, I can't speak to the specific search of every single college, but there is some information that remains within PGCPS. And so I think some parents, I think maybe the question is wanting to get at whether or not that can have an impact into a child getting into college. And it depends on the nature of the offense.
Thank you. So if anybody else on here has some questions, please speak up. We would like to hear whether you're a staff member, whether you're a parent, you know, please share if you have any, if maybe you experience bullying and you want to share, you know, your experience and how, you know, you resolve that. You know, please, we're here to, you know, provide you with information and resources. So please share.
I'd also like to share, David, for the parents, and if we have students on the line, that in addition to our school administrators and our teachers, our professional school counselors are a fantastic resource to support students and parents. Our pupil personnel workers advocate for our children every day. Our school psychologists are also very well trained in supporting our students.
We have another question that came through the chat. It says, how will this app be implemented around schools?
So the app is currently accessible via the individual school websites. And so parents and students also have accessibility via their cell phone and any other device.
And I think another one came through. It says, what if you don't know the name of your bully? Like when you're filling out the form, how would they be able to report that and find that, you know, individual, or be able to, you know, to further investigate it? If say the individual doesn't know the person that's bullying them, like name wise.
So that's a challenge. And so that's why it's important for us to remember. And I pointed out that we have 2 school days to begin the process, not complete the process. And so any information that the reporter can provide would be beneficial to help the school address the issue.
So let's see.
So I have another question, or just a request for you to provide some more updated information. The beginning of the school year, there were 2 areas of interest, and Santil, if you can, you know, maybe, you know, address these directly. One was how the security features around Zoom, and what we were referencing is Zoom bombing. And there's been a new set of safety features implemented that should give parents some reassurance that there'll be less of these incidences. And I think students, you know, were able to like become the host of classes, like things like that. And then the Google Gmail, there had been the opportunity to actively chat through GChat or Hangouts. And even though we ran into in our, preparing for this forum, that I could still see that in Gmail, but you let me know that it's inactive now. And I was just wondering if you could, give some clarification to parents about those two items, because that's come up a bit, for the beginning of this distance learning.
Certainly. I'll be happy to. Thank you, Ms. Boozer-Strother. So when we went on a distance learning mode back in the spring, we had to pick a communication software that would scale to the needs of nearly 137,000 students and a number of staff. So we decided to leverage both Google Meet as well as Zoom. But Zoom did come up with a lot of additional security features. So it's quite popular in the education arena, if you would. But because of that reason, it also attracted a lot of hacking activities, if you would. So generally, you keep hearing a lot of Zoom bombing incidents. What happens is a teacher creates a meeting and then publishes the information about the meeting ID, the password. So the students post that information on social media. So when somebody gets a hold of that, they can try to log into the meeting and then basically cause disruption. So to avoid that, there is another layer of security. So what we've done in PGCPS is we require everyone, even if you have the meeting ID and password, you're required to log in with your PGCPS credentials in order to join the meeting. So Zoom as a company is still evolving. It's a very nascent company, and they are trying to ramp up the security around their product. Especially the use in an educational setting is a whole new territory for them. So they're taking a lot of feedback from large districts, large and small districts like ourselves, and incorporating those features. So what was happening up until last week, if I may say so, is that if a PGCPS student, if I'm a PGCPS student, I can log in with my credentials, but within the app, I can change my name. What is displayed in my session, Zoom session, I can change my name. So some of our students, what happened, they used sessions that are not meant for them. They logged in with their PGCPS credentials, just changing the display name. So as the teachers look at the list, the name sounds familiar, they let the student in, and the student, because is not a part of the class, they started creating issues in the classroom, and they had to be kicked out, or the meeting had to be ended, and so forth. So Zoom added a new security feature very recently that we incorporated over the weekend. Unfortunately, that caused some issues to a number of students yesterday, and some of them today as well. So what this allows is, it authenticates against our Active Directory directly. So we call that Adfs Authentication. So the teachers can share the link with the student, and the student will click on the link, and they will see this familiar ADFS login page that students already see when they're connecting to Clever and a few other applications that use the same technology. The difference is, as you join using ADFS authentication, you no longer can update your name, your display name. So you have to be a PGCPS student, and your name would be directly coming from our Active Directory. That's not something you can modify. So even if you have, technically, even if you're able to connect, the teacher can potentially recognize and disallow the student in the meeting. And also it gives them a reliable way to filter out students that don't belong in that particular classroom. We are very excited about this because a lot of teachers have already scheduled several meetings. They have to update the authentication setting to use the new style of authentication, if you would. So we've had close to 28,000 meetings in the past 2 days using this style. So it seems to be working fine, with the exception of students who are still trying to log in with the old URL or trying to access through the app. So we are trying to communicate to the families that you no longer need to go to, the Zoom URL to log in or use the app to connect. This is only for students. The teachers and staff can continue to access it like they have always done. So as this settles down, I think this is going to provide a much more secure platform. Besides, there are a lot of security settings that Zoom has added to the product functionality that we are implementing behind the scenes that makes it secure based on the location accuracy and so forth. You also mentioned Google. So at the beginning of distance learning, we had to provide as many platforms as we can reasonably offer to our teachers. So we also started using Google Meet. When we rolled it out, in order for students to join a Google Meet session, they also needed access to the chat functionality or Hangout functionality of Google. Even though we had explicitly prevented our students from having access to chat, because of this feature, we had to temporarily allow them access to chat. That did provide a lot of challenging moments for our teachers. So we encouraged them to use a Zoom instead, because it has a lot more controls over what how a teacher can manage those virtual learning sessions. But sometime in September, Google basically updated their product portfolio, and they no longer require students to have access to Google Chat in order to participate in Meets. So based on this setting, we have disabled access to Google Chat for all our students. But I will confirm the issue that you said. Ideally, we don't want to see even the history for Google Chats. But I will try to work with our engineers to disable if that is an option at all.
Yeah, thank you so much for explaining all that. Those were, been two big issues, and it sounds like two very good improvements that should diminish disruption for sure, and then also the potential for the bullying to take place within that chat. One less place parents have to monitor, because we're monitoring a lot.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I see there's other questions in the chat.
So Desann, we had a question about students, because I know you said earlier there's something going on in November, but what if a student wanted to start their own anti-bullying campaign? Where would they start, and how would they, execute that?
So I think that is an excellent charge for our students to take up. So students can engage, depending on their level, with their SGA, with their school administrator. There may be a school sponsor. They certainly can contact our department also to share their thoughts and their recommendations, that they can engage with their student member of the Board of Education to share their thoughts and ideas and their recommendations. So there are a number of avenues for our students to become involved with establishing their own anti-bullying campaign.
Thank you. Also, I noticed that we had a guest on who is a bullying advocate, Mr. Tillman. He's with Make Smart Cool, and he might have something that he wants to share. If you have a few minutes, Mr. Tillman, if you want to, share about your work with Bullying Advocate and youth.
Hello, how y'all doing? Well, pretty much, like you said, I'm Anthony Tillman. I'm with Make Smart Cool. We're a nonprofit that support education for the youth around Prince George's County and beyond. And I actually wrote a book about bullying. It's called Bull to Bully. So pretty much, I know a little bit about bullying, which is why I was kind of giving those recommendations as far as like, the QR codes. And I think there needs to be like just a kind of a rollout form as far as just implementing it around the schools as far as like a introduction of the bullying app, not just, telling kids to just, download the app, because you already know it's not going to happen that way. You're telling the kids to do something as far as downloading the app, it's not going to work. Most bullying happen at home or after school is over, typically, especially online. So, I think, with just bullying, you never really know what a kid is going through until you ask them. So, I think it's when we do our reading programs on Monday, we kind of just like, ask kids, how are their day? How is your day going? Do you have anything you want to share with us? But I do think the app is a good idea. I just think it needs to be marketed more, kid tolerant, which pretty much means that, through the apps that the kids are using, more so than just saying go to an app that they're not going to want to download at all. So it needs to be different ways for them to access the app, especially like I think every principal and every school should have a QR code to the app around the school, or like a sign that they can actually go. One thing I will say is I'm the PTSA president at Crossland High School, and our principal, he does a really good job of just putting signs around the school on how to contact him with the QR codes, and you can just actually just put your phone and take a picture of it, and it'll directly send him like an email or something. I think that needs to be the way we market this bullying app around the school. So if a kid has an issue, they can actually just go to the QR code and take a picture of it rather than just downloading the app. It needs to be like a direct form as well. So that way, in case they don't want to download the app, it just needs to be accessible from different places. The app is definitely a good idea, but I think it needs to be just rolled out, a little more marketability for kids, because, most kids now are on TikTok or IG, and they necessarily don't really use those apps that we think are cool. So, I tell you, my kids be like, I be like, I'm on Facebook. They're like, we don't use Facebook no more. So, you know how it is. They're like, yeah, I don't like Facebook. So this Facebook is like MySpace to them right now. So, so I think it's definitely a good idea, but I think like, you definitely should implement those ideas. And that's my little 2 cents. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Tillman.
Mr. Tillman. Thank you. We did share, we developed an FAQ document for principals and also a separate document for parents. And we encourage principals to share that information virtually with their parent community. But thank you for your recommendation on marketing the app to students, and certainly the possibility of using the QR code is something that we will look into. So thank you so much.
So Desann, Ms. Johnson put a question in the chat, and she said, who should you contact if the school doesn't have a link to the online reporting tool?
So if Ms. Johnson wants to put that school name in the chat, I can double check, because we did a verification that all of our schools have it on their website. Ms. Johnson can also send an email to studentservices.br@pgcps.org. And again,
okay, I'm sorry, I did a spot check, and I'm seeing several that, like elementary schools that don't have it, Tulip Grove, Phyllis C. Williams, all the charter schools. My daughter goes to a charter school. I don't see it on any of the charter schools I've checked so far.
Okay, we'll look into that, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for letting us know.
And like I said, I looked at Tulip Grove and Phyllis C. Williams because I know those schools, but I don't know where else. So I didn't know if, I didn't do a 100% check. So, okay. Thanks.
So anybody else have any questions or comments or experience that they want to share? Please come forward now, or we're going to slowly start to wrap up.
This is Ms. Johnson again. So was you said that there's this competition. Is part of the competition that the students are producing videos or whatever for aimed at getting the word out about this app or form?
No, so last year we did a chair chance competition. This year we're not engaging in a competition. We encourage students up until August 16th to submit a video demonstrating or sharing with us how they demonstrate the theme, this year's theme of acceptance, kindness, and inclusion.
Okay, because I mean, with this new rollout, the whole idea about just adding to Anthony's thought process and how to market this, they might be able to come up with a TikTok video or something that would help with the marketing, because they would know best how to market to their peers, probably. Just an idea.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Great recommendation, building on Mr. Tillman's suggestion. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, also to kind of piggyback on that, I see that a lot of schools, they have it as a banner on the homepage. I mean, I asked how many of them has went to the school website on the front page of the website. I don't think no one has. I know, I can tell you, I know for a fact that I don't think 90% of kids even went to the school website at all throughout the whole year. So that's pretty much another thing that I know that probably needs to be adjusted, because I went to a few websites as she mentioned, and it was kind of like a banner on the bottom page, and I think that's pretty much not a good idea. That's just to kind of have just a banner.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Mr. Tillman, the parents do go to that website, so it's that generational change, because the school websites continue to be the #1 visited pages on the PGCPS website is your own school site. So you're right, there's where the parents go and where our kids are going, and we really gonna have to market to where they are.
I mean, the kids are logging into Google Classroom every day. That'd be a good place to put it. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know what it looks like, because like I said, my daughter goes to a charter school, so we're not using Google Classroom. But whatever platform that they're accessing every day to get to their classes, if there's a way to incorporate it there. I mean, we have the unique opportunity that they have to, log on every day to something, so.
Thank you all for those recommendations. We will certainly revisit them and see how we can improve our process. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, everybody, this evening. I want to turn this back over. Thank you, Desann. Thank you, Centil, for the presentation and the information that you provided. Right now, I want to move on to closing remarks from our board members, starting with Sandra Shepard, Curtis Valentine, and then Pamela Boozer-Strother.
Yes, these were so many great recommendations that I think we need to continue to do to improve the awareness and to let people know where they can find the resources. I would love, and I think that David, on a side note, maybe we should talk about a campaign. And this is a great opportunity where kids can show what they have learned and put it in social media. And as a youth developer, I think that yes, we have to find ways of how to connect to our young people. Definitely parents connect in a different way, and they do as well. So very good information. I'm so grateful to be part of this, and thank you everyone for providing all those tools to us as parents. I do gotta say that I learned a few things, and that I'm gonna utilize and act like I don't know how to use those things, and to serve me better and be more involved with my child. Thank you guys.
And I also say thank you all for joining. I won't keep you long. I'll just say this is how change happens. It happens sort of one meeting at a time. It happens with people speaking up, standing up for other people, recognizing people. And so again, thank you for everybody who joined the call, people who organized the call. Thank you everyone for this effort to really highlight an important issue. Have a great night.
Right. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to Sandra and Curtis for joining me this evening. It's such an honor to serve with them on the Board of Education and to come together, you know, as parents and to help other parents, you know, through issues. I want to thank David and Mia for moderating and running the program, Wilbur and the team from the interpreting department, and of course, Desann and Centil. As everyone else said, we've all learned something this evening, and I am no exception. I have a couple points that I took down that that I know I need to implement at home with this big changes with the online gaming and that time with the screen. So I really appreciate it. I want to thank, I see some principals from District 3 here. It means a lot to me that you're in attendance. Thank you so much. And you know, whatever we can do as Board of Education members to create forums that are valuable to your school communities, please reach out. Let us know. We really like to do these, and you know, it's really important to us that we have an opportunity to show all the system, a lot of the professionals and experts who are with us and helping our children every day. So thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a great evening.